Well, let's see if it goes. Hi, I'm back, but here's a commercial first, and let me make sure I got the right one. And here we go. Hey, welcome, and welcome. Let's turn on Instagram to welcome now too. All right, let's see. I have not been on in a while, and it's mostly because of school. It's especially last semester. I had a high level statistics class, and some I had to learn the theories of personality, like go over them and learn them to a finite strong point. Um, and it was good. I mean, it was taxing, but at the same time, it's well worth it. Um, I mentioned, I think it's on my Facebook note there, that when I truly am life after death, and I'm blessed for that. I'm blessed to be able to go to school, and I'm to a point where no matter how tough it is, I'm grateful for the fact that I actually get to be here and do it and accomplish that. Which is, I mean, it's fascinating. I'm not going to rehash my story a million more times, but it's the fact that I drank myself to death, went into end stage liver failure and kidney failure, got sent home to hospice. Started praying one day for forgiveness. I wasn't praying for my life. I was past that point. I'd already come to terms with the fact that I did this to myself, which was the most important thing I probably have ever said in my adult life. And it makes a huge difference. I see it all the time now where, people do the poor me. And as an old man once told me, it's goes straight to poor me another. And that's just the way it goes. When I got blessed enough to realize that, what, I need to look at me and understand what was my fault in all this. And I know in AA they say take inventory, but how about really taking inventory of your life? Um, where does it start? And what got me to the point of where I am today is getting CBT, cognitive behavioral health therapy. And that was an amazing journey. I mean, it was filled with tears and the fact that, the doctor let me know at the time, that I've been dealing with CPTSD for a long time, and roughly about 26 years that I'd been, like hiding it, running from it, and looking down the bottom of a bottle for answers, which never got me anywhere, and it never did. I feel right now, I'm 47 years old, and I feel the best I have in my adult life. I don't have to lie about things anymore. I don't have to run away and hide, and I don't have to drink. And as I say that, enjoy my beer. It's a novelty thing that, okay, I thought it was funny anyway. Somebody got it for me. I was like, yeah, that'll go over well. Cool. But getting back to the point of the matter, there is during that prayer, when I came out of that prayer, I asked, well, I didn't ask, I made several promises to God, and one that, I love the car business, honestly. I have a degree in real estate, and I was a realtor for a while. I just got to the point where not all realtors, there's plenty of great people out there, but there's a lot of people who just get in that business after the 30-day course and um, just do some stuff that other people have to go around and clean up behind them the entire time because they just, frankly, they don't understand the laws yet. And that was my blessing is I did understand all the laws. I passed that dreaded exam the first time, but when I started, about 3, 4 months in, I realized I didn't know how to sell real estate. I was good at everything else, but I, school couldn't teach me how to sell houses. So when I went to North Carolina in around 2010, I started, I didn't have a sphere of influence there, which is the group of people around you that you can possibly get them to, pass out your cards, tell people about you, and so on and so on. I didn't have that in North Carolina. So I started working for Subaru um, at the time, and within the first month, I was like the top salesperson there. And I went from there to that was in Winston Salem. Then I went to Greensboro, North Carolina, um, with a girl I was dating at the time, and I started working for Toyota. And again, I mean, I killed it. I was one of the best in that place, and even old general managers and stuff will tell you that. Corey Thomas, Minister Thomas, that's on here. He was one of my managers at one point in life. I was good, but what I didn't realize until now, and this is the truth, is I used a ton of psychology. I had a small, like minuscule background in psychology from that was going to be my first major, in 1996, 97, 95. I don't know. But there's a lot of psychology that goes into that because you're in both of those in real estate as well. You're looking at somebody making probably the two biggest decisions of their life. The one with the car, and to a more extreme point, a house. Um, well, these jobs also, I was so good at them that I was only good at work. When I got home, it would kick in, what I was running from um, kicked in, and over the years, I developed what is, they're debating now whether, to use alcoholism as a small term and use alcohol use disorder as a larger term. Personally, I find calling somebody an alcoholic, it's so stigmatized at this point that uh, I've said this before. It's like putting a scarlet letter A on somebody's chest, and I just don't like it. And but I developed a severe problem. I mean, enough to shut my liver and kidneys down. And that problem also stemmed from, and this is the truth, a loss of spirituality, a loss of God, and that drug me down. Really, that's the one thing I really strongly remember in the hospital, and I was in there for months. Is I was told after a couple of days that I maybe had 3 days to 2 weeks to live. And I started realizing I've got no faith in my life. I'm just running roughshod, and not to quote that stupid song, but you're kind of running with the devil. And again, one of my favorite quotes is from the same old man who taught me a lot that I didn't listen to, and now I listen to. I actually was blessed to. This is just going off the side, but I was in North Carolina last 2 weeks ago, and I was able to stop by and see him. And he has a whopping 42 years of being sober. Um, but he's like me; he didn't even think about it. And that's what I titled this there for Instagram. Is what's my sober date? I don't have a sober date. If you ask me when I got sober minded, it's when I found salvation and came back. I made these promises to God. I'm gonna get back, and by doing that, it ended up meaning. What came to my head is, man, I've got to go back to school. I can't go and get for me in auto sales, it was easy money, and I made a ton. If you're good at it, you'll make a lot of money. Um, and with that said, um, the life outside of work it's like two different worlds. I was suffering inside the whole time and didn't quite understand how bad I was suffering because I was running from it. And now is within the next 6 months I'll be counseling. And I think about my story, and I think about all I went through, and I think about the rehabs and the AAs, and y'all have heard this from me before, but 95% of the rehabs in the United States use the 12-step Alcoholics Anonymous model. And it doesn't work for everybody. What it does do is it can be phenomenal for helping somebody abstain. And but it's not a fix for what I say. And I mean this, I've written several papers about it. I've gotten some traction with them. Is I question whether alcohol use disorder was just a symptom of a larger problem, which in my case it ends up, yeah, it was a symptom of a larger problem. Since I went through that psychotherapy, I haven't drank. I don't think about drinking. I had a couple of bottles of alcohol up there for, I don't know, it seems like the last year maybe. But anyway, I took them and gave them to my sister when I was in North Carolina, just for, she has friends over and stuff like that. And I've got no problem with people drinking. I didn't turn into that guy. And, some people can handle it responsibly. But I can tell you this, if you have traumas in your life, childhood trauma, adult trauma, this can be emotional abuse is a big reason some people start drinking. And you've got all the abuses in there. I can't make one way more than the other. And traumas, the majority of traumas do turn into some form of addiction, whether it's a food addiction, a sex addiction, an alcohol addiction, a drug addiction, or any of the sort. I was working on a paper earlier, and this was staggering to me. If I can find it here, if I don't get lost in the mix. Watch, I'll get lost in the mix because I'm good at it. Okay, there it is. 3.3 million U.S. citizens die of alcoholism a year, and it's a It's a larger killer. I'll just read this to you for what it is. And I quote New York Times. In the United States, alcohol is a larger killer than other drugs. It accounts for the majority of all addiction treatment cases and is responsible for at least $250 billion per year in lost productivity and costs related to crime, incarceration, healthcare. Moreover, American deaths related to alcohol more than doubled between 1999 and 2017. And there it is. So, worldwide, alcohol misuse and dependence are responsible. I said the U.S. before, it's worldwide. Are responsible for 3.3 million deaths per year. That's 10 times the number of fatalities from all illicit drugs combined. Now, that's counting fentanyl and everything else. And I'm not saying that fentanyl is by any means a good drug. It scares the hell out of me. And I always go back to this was early last spring in 2022. I met a lady whose son, was just smoking a joint, and somebody had laced it with fentanyl, and it killed him. He didn't know it was. Who's going to smoke marijuana and think it's going to have I don't mean to laugh, but God, it kills me. Have a potentially fatal drug in it. And I spent months trying to, figure out why in the world would somebody sprinkle fentanyl in weed? And then it made sense to me with, all the classes, because I have a concentration in addiction with my psychology degree. And it makes sense if you put it in a business point of view, which I know sounds like the most absurd thing, but they're going to have the best weed in town. So that word's going to get around word of mouth. They don't care who they kill because somebody else is going to come along behind them. And, it's just what it is. Um, uh, uh, since I've been on here, a couple of weeks ago, I've been working with a friend of mine who I met in rehab, Chris Lawson. And he is not with us now. And right before the day I went right before the day before I went to North Carolina, um, I had sent him some money for food and a bus pass to get back to. He was in Dayton, Ohio, and to get back to Lexington in Kentucky to go to treatment at probably the Ridge, which is now by far the most efficient treatment center in central Kentucky, and that can't be argued. Statistically, every place is going to say they've got this. What is it? The place I absolutely find deplorable and one of the worst places you can send a loved one. Revive, they advertise saving lives one at a time, but they don't advertise the mortality or have a memorial page up for those who have passed. But yeah, man, I found out Chris had died, and it's not abnormal. He's coming in for treatment, and this is a problem all of us in the uh, psychiatric community and the even down to peer support and technicians. We need to get a grip on because a lot of people will use. They're like, they just use that screw it mentality, and they're going to use right before they go in, and it could be the last time. I know of an incident, and that's what happened to Chris. He had gone back out there, and him and I had been talking for months. He's such a intelligent kid. It's when I wrote a little memorandum for him. It was I put down he was untapped intelligence, and I'm not kidding. He could sit there, and we're in Nicholasville, Kentucky, and you've got people of all walks of life. Um, but in Revive at the time, I think the high school graduation rate was basically me and a couple more. And I'm not putting people down because a lot of people just don't get the real opportunity to go and find fulfillment in school because so much else is going on. But Chris was, he was just an intelligent kid, and I think about him every day, and him and I grew close when we were in there. We actually both got kicked out about the same time for um, questioning their methods of insanity. I had just gotten. They did a punishment in there called words, prison punishment. So, I ended up getting one for like I had to write 2,500 words because I had the dude who was in charge. This and it really, I mean that he had decided that instead of getting up at 6:30, which was our time, that's what you sign a contract when you're going to rehab. Okay, so we're supposed to be up at 6:30 downstairs by 7. Anyway, he decided to change it to 6:15 at one point, and then change it to 6 at another point. And he comes up. I'm sitting up in my bed one day at 6:05. And damned if he didn't write me up for it, and they give me 2,500 words. Well, whatever. I finished that in a couple of hours, and because to me, as somebody who used to fashion themselves a writer, and um, honestly, I'm pretty good at it. But um, the next thing is I get in trouble for using too many different phone calls on Thanksgiving, and they give me 10,000 words to write. Well, at the same time, right before me, Chris had gotten like the 2,000 words as well for nothing. Basically, neither one of us. The punishments didn't fit the crime. I mean, it's just like, okay, you've got the way it worked in there is it was kind of like what they're called peer support, where actually like COs, correction officers. So it was very much a prison mentality in that place. It was strange. I don't know if it's still like that or not. I would assume it is. Because if it works and you don't get in trouble, why fix it, right? Um, but yeah, Chris left right before me. I remember I was so upset because I was, thinking he's not ready, and you just somehow, you get that intuition in you, and the same as I wrote the 10,000 words to finish that. I think I did it in 2 days, um, and I don't think I don't know exactly what's behind it, but I don't think they took kindly to me being able to do that in just a couple of days. But again, it's something I'm skilled at, and I found it laughable. I remember I filled the 10,000 words with uh, Bible verses, and specifically verses that showed they weren't exactly doing faith-based treatment in that place. But that's enough about them. I don't care if I ever see that place again. I'm on to bigger fish to fry at this point. But I did want to mention, Chris, if you go to my Facebook, I've got a nice video of uh, Jeff Buckley's version of Hallelujah, with some still pictures of Chris. He's a great kid, and he meant a lot to me, and it's a shame. And that's something, with what I'm going into and a lot of other people deal with is it takes a lot of self-care to get involved in any kind of sobriety deal. Um, I mean, in the past 2 years alone, off the top of my head, I can go 14 people now that have died, and in the years past, since I don't know, I think it started getting bad around 2015 or incredibly worse. I remember it being right around the time, and I don't know when this was, that they increased Percocets from 10s to 30s, but I know several people who overdosed at that point, which is tragic. But getting back to my promises to God, so I promised to give back, and it didn't take me long to realize that I couldn't do that doing. I mean, I couldn't do that to the point where I could give back my 26 years of dereliction, and you know, and tell the story for what it is. The truth, the testimony. The best way for me to give testimony is to do what I've done, and I I went back to school, and man, I didn't know how I was going to do it first. I mean, seriously, I was talk about somewhat nervous. I was definitely nervous when I started back, and I just didn't know how good I would do. And now it's in the point where I'm in the National Society, NSLS, something, whatever, some kind of fraternity I was invited to join. My grade point average should, after this semester, be at 3.9 after this past semester, um, which I aced. And I really, Chris died right for my final statistics project, and I kind of just, man, almost phoned that in. But I think, with the knowledge God had blessed me with, I mean, I just literally got 100%. And that's not bragging because it honestly shocks me as well. And what that is giving testimony to God's grace. I know my sister, for example, has been told at least twice now that I would probably be severely brain damaged and or dead. And and somehow I've gotten smarter. Or there's a Pearl Jam song that says, "I change by not changing at all." Small time predicts my fate. Perhaps that's what no one wants to see. All right, but I just want to say hello. And there's more to the song, but that's "Elderly Lady Behind the Counter in a Small Town" by Pearl Jam. And I've been able to learn at a rapid pace. I was able to heal at a rapid pace. There's still no medical explanation on how I was able to heal and be in the shape I'm in for an adult and still to be wearing. I love this. I finally got a Run DMC shirt, long sleeves. I prefer to wear long sleeves because I had skin cancer once upon a time. And by the way, take care of your skin. Tanning beds are not ideal. Um, but getting back to it all, the title of this, I know at least on Instagram, was "Don't Ask Me My Sober Date." And, don't. You're wasting your time because I don't know it. I don't count days of time. And several of the methods that I've used myself, these all go back to one thing, and it's all, this is all grace of God, glory of God. This all glorifies God. It's not me who pulled me out of a grave, and that's a fact. Um, you know, People can argue I'm still friends with all my atheist friends and all my agnostics and all my whatever friends. I don't care. You know, I am who I am. I'm not going to go into a political thing, but if you still believe in Donald Trump at this point, I feel for you. Um, all right, that's enough of my smart aleck stuff. But and the promises I made God, one of them, I mean, this sounds so stupid, but is that I wouldn't cut my hair, and at least the top of it, not the sides and back so much, has been growing out for over 2 years. And I know that sounds like the dumbest thing, but it's just something that came up, and that's what happened. I think that has to go with my being so metrosexual before all this happened, and I still am sort of that way, but this would drive me crazy sometimes. I mean, yeah. Well, if you haven't, my hair's not been long since I was 18, probably 17, somewhere around there. It's pretty long then, but not the point. So anyway, and when I was taking the theories of personality course, I was, really, really studying this trauma factor. And, a lot of us in Generation X, um, we dealt with a lot of bullying in school. And I can't compare it to today because today kids don't meet behind the convenience store and fight after school. Today they do something extremely absurd, and obnoxious and evil. Um, but you know, I think of the rash of suicides of friends of mine in the last 10 years as well, and it's always concerning to me. And one thing that I learned that blew me away is I was always told, by so many people that suicide's selfish way out. And but I was confronted with something on that, and that is the fact that haven't you ever heard of people who want to die because they're in so much pain? I said, well, I never thought of it that way, and I didn't think of it that way, and that is my own problem, and that is my own fault. But there's a realistic thought there that it's scary. Um, but and I've got it running along the bottom here. Seriously, my phone number's there. If it's not on here, hey Shalini, sorry I missed that real quick. My phone number is 336-419-7894. Really, if anybody's feeling down or feels like they need to go to treatment or want to go to treatment, trust me, I'll take you. Um, I carry around Narcan in my car, and I got to get to Amy Capici, Shalini. I owe her some for her work in social work that she does in helping people. But I've gotten to around Richmond, Kentucky, where I'm at. Is I often get my car washed because it's just one of those OCD things with me. But every time I'm at the car wash, there's police officers there, and sheriffs, and the Kentucky State Police Post is like 2 miles from where I'm at right now, and so I've made a habit of asking them, if they have any Narcan. And, often I know the last one I gave it to, he said he had just run out last night. It takes him about a week to get another supply. So I was like, here, come over here. Open up the trunk of my car. I've got a big box of Narcan sitting there. And he's like, wow, man, thanks. And then, I've been doing that off and on for a while. Like if I see a coffee stop somewhere and I'm close, gas station, whatever, I'll just ask them if they don't have any. And plus, I've got the fentanyl test strips um, that I give out to them as well. Because I'm like, man, think about it. If you're worried about exposure and you get somebody with a bag of weed, it may very well be sprinkled with that stuff. So, here it is. So, but long story short, they call me the Narcan man now. I've been called worse. So, and I've never even I've never had I like it's hard to say it this way because it's right and it's wrong. I've never had a drug problem, but I had a drug problem. Alcohol is still a drug, but what they like to say is illicit drugs. I never had any kind of issue with. Um, Amazing as that sounds, it's true. But in getting back to not asking me my sober date, I really don't care. It's more or less, and this is to me and to others, it's biblical, but it's also not biblical. There's a sober mind. AA coined a term called dry drunk, which is pretty derogatory. It's that's shaming somebody, no matter how you look at it. But sober minded is different. If you look at this from a mental health aspect, like I was never sober minded because I never dealt with my traumas from childhood. So my theory was, I get all the glory at work. I'm doing great. I get home and, I'm like, shit, I'm all alone, and, the mind's racing, and I start going back to, the fact that what had really been kicking me in the head since 2003, when my dad died, is I was like, I'd never got a chance to work this out with him. Now, in an odd turn of events, I've changed it around now because the weekend he died on a Sunday. I remember this specifically. I took him to, I snuck him out of the hospital because, me being me, if it was doing something bad, I was going to do it. But he was okay to sneak out. He just wanted to go to McDonald's so bad. That was like his favorite place for, I guess, because of his age. My dad would be 100 this coming February. So yeah, he was quite a bit older when he had me, and But anyway, just McDonald's, and he apologized to me and said, you know, I always knew that you'd be the one who was here at the end. And okay, um, I don't know. It was hard because we never got a chance to kind of build a normal relationship, and I think from Dad's time in World War II, I don't. He never got any mental health help, and I think he lived with those scars for his entire life. And so I found peace and forgiveness with that through the therapy. Is I don't know. I never thought of him as somebody who was mentally ill or scarred from World War II, but he went in at 15 years old. Um, and because then he was born, you know, in a holler in eastern Kentucky because his parents came straight from Scotland, and he didn't have a birth certificate, so his social security number. I always wondered why it started with it was 224. And you know, once I started working in finance stuff, I learned that's basically where you're from. Mine's a 404, is a lot of people in Kentucky are four something, and uh, you know, but Dad's was a 224, and I finally figured that out. It was in Florida. He didn't get a social security number until he was deployed, and he was sent over to Okinawa, I believe is what it was. But anyway, I mean, he would hardly talk about it when he. I know of several instances, like when an uncle or a cousin or something took him to go see Platoon when it was in the movie theater, and it apparently sent him in some real funky state where he had to walk out. And you know, I just remember that he didn't really like talking about it. But I remember certain things that could happen. Like I once walked up behind him, he was sitting in a lazy boy chair, and I grabbed him by his wrist, you know, just saying, "Dad," he was hard of hearing. I think he was 95% deaf in one ear and 70% deaf in the other ear. But anyway, when I grabbed his wrist, he flipped me over real quick. And you know, that's the way it goes. It's the same thing when he had his cochlear implant, which is what led to his death. It was massive infections from, he got septic and something with his, I don't know at all, honestly. It's kind of like a blur at points. But long story short, when he woke up from the anesthesia, he started fighting this big orderly guy, big guy. And they had to, they came and got me in the waiting room to come in there and try and calm him down because he was trying to fight him and he hurt the great big guy. Um, I just says that was a different generation. And, you know, healthcare wasn't a priority when my dad came up. So I do find the forgiveness. And he was, what I would say is he was a good person, a good man, a good businessman, and lots more. But he was a terrible father. I mean, he just was. And, you know, I used to hate and feel like I'm talking behind his back, you know, put him up on a pedestal and just leave it there. But um, now I don't have to do that anymore because I'm not talking bad about him. Not say it to his face, the same as I am with everybody now. That's one gift that I've gained from not drinking anymore. Yes, it is, Shalene. Um, um, is I kind of don't hold back if I see things are wrong anymore. And this is something from the side of the Central Kentucky Christians and the Joel Osteen Christians that it drives me nuts. It's like everybody turns a blind eye when stuff's going on, and you know they'll come up with some verse that says not to gossip about the other person. Well, you've got like an example. It's on my Facebook page. I put his mugshot on there. This guy, Jackie Smith, that I had dealt with last year. He likes to rob single women and children and push girlfriends out of moving vehicles. And the owner of Revive, the rehab, had bailed him out of jail, man. And I had a fit. I went up and talked to the pastor myself. And, you know, because typically, or not typically, what you're supposed to do if you're a good Bible beaten Christian is to rebuke your pastor. Well, that went nowhere. That got me basically him telling everybody what an idiot I am and I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, point being, it doesn't feel good. But a year later, Mr. Jackie Smith's back in jail again with charges for robbing single women and children. And it's just sometimes you need to tell the truth. And I don't care who says that's gossiping or whatever else. I said it right to Jackie's face. I said it right to Todd's face. They were idiots and they had blood on their hands. And maybe I didn't handle that right because my verbiage. I'm Generation X. We tend to fly off the handle. And I learned in psychology that we tend to use curse words as like exclamation points to put punctuation at the end of a sentence or in the middle of a sentence or who knows. But it's a habit we developed over the years. So, um, in exciting news, right before I started putting this together tonight, I got my Adidas Mark Gonzalez shoes. I thought these were so cool because they're clear, and I guess this is how people do that unboxing stuff. But I don't know if you can see. You can see it better there. They're clear and awesome. I did not have a black pair of Adidas shoes, believe it or not. So that's it. That was exciting for me. I've been waiting on those for a long time. But to finish up and not to bore everybody tonight, I got a little bit chatty because it's been so long since I've done one of these. When I was talking about my promises of giving back, um, I absolutely mean that. And sometimes it's hard to give back because the more you do to better yourself, you're going to be met with resistance, with sometimes envy. A lot of people think I'm arrogant and a double crooked letter HOLE. A lot of times, but I can be. I know I can be, but it's not for the wrong reasons anymore, like it used to be. There's too much abuse of the systems out here and what goes on. Listen, we're seeing a death rate that's just going nutty at this point. I know where I was talking about where Chris went back out one time, and that's what killed him. Um, I know some people at the Ridge in Lexington, which is now the place that everybody should go for treatment if you have Medicaid or private insurance or anything. They've got a heck of an outstanding program compared to I was there 3 years ago and it was worthless, but they've totally revamped the place and it's a that's a true psychiatric hospital, which I look at any type of alcohol use disorder, substance use disorder is it's a symptom, like I said earlier, of a larger issue most of the time. And people get me wrong all the time because I think AA is a waste of time. For somebody like me, it's going to be a waste of time. I could go in there and make up the biggest pity story in the world, and somebody's going to pat me on the back and say, "Yeah, they understand that person did that to you. Yeah, I drink too." No, no. I've learned that dealing with my PTSD, that's chronic post traumatic stress syndrome. It's too long. Let's just call it PTSD. Um, that in dealing with it and facing the past and everything else, I've not, and truly, I tell you, this is not a lie. I've not had a craving to drink. I don't get triggered. I mean, and I discuss this with people all the time because they teach a lot of triggers in rehabs and AA and NA. And NA's a little bit different, man. I'm going to give them credit. Going into trap house is going to be triggered. Um, but where I live in Central Kentucky, this is the largest liquor store in the U.S., or it used to be. I think it still is. It's right in Lexington, and you can't go to Kroger without Kroger liquor right there. You can't watch TV. You can't go out with your friends. And, I mean, the Super Bowl is supposed to be a trigger because of the Budweiser Clydesdales, I guess. Oh, but we can't say Budweiser anymore. The ridiculous things that we get up in a tizzy about, and when we should really concentrate on other things. Really, Bud Light thing is just that's one of the dumbest wars on a product that I've seen. I would say probably in my lifetime, unless it was something toxic like I don't know some kind of glue they were putting in kids' toys that were chew toys or you know, something that whatever. With the Bud Light thing, that's just stupid. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Who cares? Who cares? If I was still drinking, I'd still drink Bud Light because honestly, I'm pretty infamous for not liking the taste of alcohol, and Bud Light was pretty close to not tasting like alcohol, if I remember correctly. Um, but that was a long time ago. Sorry, I'm trying to take my sandals off underneath the table. But uh, now I forgot what I was talking about. It doesn't matter. But well, yes, I do. Um, with AA and stuff like that in a group therapy, you're not going to get, you. One of the biggest problems with an AA is you've got a bunch of unlicensed counselors who are giving advice, which knowledge is a lot, experience is a lot. So there can be some help in AA situation, but again, that's for abstinence, and that's for you're going to stay stagnant if you've got underlying issues, um, or yeah, underlying. If you're still in recovery, you probably got underlying issues. And it's my buddy I said earlier that was 43 years sober. He did the same thing I did, and he never goes to AA. He doesn't celebrate. He hates it when they call him to remind him about his how many years it's been. I challenge anybody and everybody to get therapy, get individual therapy. Face what it is that hurts you the most, and it's easier said than done. But like one of the first things I did when I started realizing all this and worrying about, is this going to trigger me? Is I went in the liquor barn to go get a friend of mine beer cheese. I've gone and got people alcohol. I go out with my friends who are drinking. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't have to bother you, but that's cognitive behavioral therapy. Um, and you just can't get that from an AA. You can sustain and abstain. And abstinence is for a lot of people that's what works. And for me, when I go into an AA meeting and I hear some just off the wall crazy story about it's not my fault, it's never my fault, it sends me up a wall because me being me, I want to save them, but I also want to choke them for falling into that trap because that's one trap I had for years and years. And this can't be argued on me anymore. In Nicholasville, they argued my thoughts on this, but there's no identifiable gene that is passed that is what people like to call an alcoholic gene. There's no such thing. Depression, anxiety, that can be passed. It's identifiable. But there is no true alcoholic gene as told in the rooms. And once I got past that thinking and quit going, okay, my dad's family was full of alcoholics, but neither one of my parents ever drank, and my grandparents didn't drink. Well, my dad's dad did, but I never met him. He died in like 1965 or something. And once I got past that and saying, you know what, I can't blame my dad and his family. I had a choice to get better. I think that's what people get wrong is you can, it's your choice to drink, but you have another choice to get better and to get therapy and to get healing. And, in Kentucky, especially, if you're not, let's say that alcohol's runs your ability to work and just live a life and so on and so on. It is nothing. Um, there's nothing difficult about getting signed up to Medicaid and get into a facility such as the Ridge or the Hope Center in Lexington has a phenomenal program now. The stuff on the outskirts, I don't know. To me, if I ever hear, I'm a Christian. I just say that. I do believe God saved me. But faith-based centers uh, that are for profit, that's something that personally I'd stay away from. That's just a warning. Let me do what I like to do. I don't do the 12 steps, but this celebrate recovery um, daily devotional is something I've always liked because it's written by many, many anonymous people who were, in the thralls of addiction at some point. And it's the Celebrate Recovery program is you're not going to find it as easily as an AA, but it's around everywhere, and that's done at churches, and it is faith based, and you don't have to pay for that one. If you're talking about rehab, you have to pay for it. Stay away. But you know what? I don't know if I can read this because I don't have my. Stand firm. Yep. What I'm going to say, I can't read it because I've got my contacts in. I know that sounds silly, but my contacts are for driving, and I always forget to take them out, and I can't read anything up close when that happens. But read First Peter 3:5-8. Let's see if I got that right. I can read the computer from this distance. Peter. Listen, honey, watching me try and type right now. See the keys right. I got it wrong. I'm out of practice, but this is my favorite. Huh. Sober. First Peter 5:8. For if you possess these qualities in increasing measure, they will keep you from being useless or unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. Basically, what I'm looking for is yes, right here it is. It's First Peter 5:8-9, I believe. Um, I had it almost right. All right, the New International Version. Here's what it is: First Peter 5:8. Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. You equate that to, if your demon's a drug or your demon's alcohol, that is to somebody like me who sucks at drinking. It's, that's your devil. And, there's a reason they call it spirits. Um, I just let it say. But, you know, biggest thing out of tonight is, school's going great. I finished this semester, straight A's. None of us are beyond help. And for newer people who tuned in or whatever, because a bunch came in and out. I drank myself to death. There's no other way to put it. That's what happened. It's a true story. And somehow my health is restored. And, you take that for what it is. It's my testimony. It's the truth. I didn't do anything to fight for me. It still can't be medically explained what happened with me. But I'm glad to be here and glad to be able to give back. And that's something that it takes courage to get back. And I want to see more people get to that point. More people fight for you know. A lot of times in addiction, people feel pretty worthless, and you're not. None of us are, and there's always a better way. And that's it for me tonight. And I can't think of anything else cool to say. Um, but I might see y'all next week. I might not. And if not, I'll definitely see you in a week or two, somewhere around there. I've got more free time for the next 8 weeks than I have for the previous 16 weeks. All right. I love y'all. Everybody have a good night. And that's it for me.